Hey everyone, happy Wednesday, good morning. We'll just give everyone a minute to join before we begin. All right, we'll go ahead and get these things started here. First of all, thanks everyone for joining us today for our webinar on Fieldwire's integrations and advanced API use cases. My name is Pranati Gompa. I am a program manager here at Fieldwire. Before we begin, I would like to address a few housekeeping items. To ensure a smooth session, attendees will be muted, but please don't hesitate to ask any questions you may have in the Q&A panel. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, and we will do our best to address as many questions as we can. For any questions we don't get to, our experts will reach out to you directly and answer them. We also have some poll questions during the webinar for you to participate in. So please feel free to select your answer when those questions pop up. Additionally, we have a short 4-question survey at the end of the webinar, which we would really appreciate if you could fill it out. This survey helps us determine the usefulness of the content we deliver and also helps us plan for our future webinars. Before we dive into the webinar, please take a minute to fill out this poll question so that we can learn a little bit more about you. So quick question here, what type of company do you work for? Just go ahead and select the type of company. Awesome. Thanks for doing that. And without further ado, I would like to welcome our Construction Success Manager, Haley Dixon, and our special guest, Ricardo Flores from Sempra. Thanks, Haley.
Great. Thank you, Pranati. So just a quick couple of intros before we get started. My name's Haley Dixon. I am on the construction success team here at Fieldwire. I've been here for a little over 2.5 years and been helping teams implement Fieldwire, develop workflows, and do things like host trainings or workflow sessions. I do have a background in the construction industry as well, so I understand the complexity and importance of communication in the industry that we work in. And I have with me today Ricardo, who I worked with over the last couple of years as well, who will be sharing his API workflows that he's created. So Ricardo, I'll let you introduce yourself as well.
Thanks, Haley. Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name is Ricardo Flores. I'm the Project Information Solutions Manager here at Sempra Infrastructure. I'm in the San Diego office. I've been working for Sempra for about 10 years, and our group, what we do here is identify any opportunities to improve and streamline the management of data and design and implement solutions to process all the data collection. Thanks, Haley.
Great, thanks, Ricardo. And just to run through a quick agenda for today, so after our introduction, I'll share a slide about past webinars, and then we'll jump into Sempra's use case. And then at the end, I'll also share our new Power BI connector that Fieldwire has recently released, just as a way to have an introduction to that. If you're interested in learning more, you can always reach out to us directly. And then we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. So I just wanted to share this. We do have all of our past webinars recorded. You can find links to them on our website or also on YouTube, and some upcoming webinars as well. Today's webinar is going to be a bit more of an advanced webinar. So if you are just getting started with Fieldwire, I highly recommend you go back into these past webinars to learn a little bit more about Fieldwire before getting started. And then I think we have another poll question. So just on a scale of 1 to 5, if you could tell us what you would rate your Fieldwire knowledge, 1 being novice, 5 being expert. I usually like to say I'm a 4.5, but for this I would pick a 5. Great. And then with that, I will hand it over to Ricardo. So Ricardo, if you don't mind, just starting off with a bit of Sempra's initiative and why you chose Fieldwire and how you kind of thought through setting up Fieldwire for your API use case.
Perfect. Thank you. Haley, I think you need to hand me the controls to share my screen. Or there you go. I got it. I'm gonna share my screen now. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining this session. We'll try to make it as fun as possible. I know this API is a little bit strict, so let's go for it. So, yeah, here at Sempra Infrastructure, we started with an initiative that came from upper management, where they requested for us to implement an application to streamline and standardize the field data collection for the multiple disciplines that we have in ENC. And those were like the construction, the safety, environmental, quality, and commissioning. And part of that, then the key part was that they wanted to centralize the data and provide near real-time project insights. So with this, that's last two sentences, right? Like centralize the data and provide real-time project insights is what drive us to find a solution to accomplish that. And we went through an RFP with multiple systems, and we identified Fieldwire. Things that we like about Fieldwire is that it has a really easy to use design to create those forms that give us that flexibility and that scalability for the forms, and also had a really strong API that we were able to extract that data so we can centralize it, and with that aggregate it with other sources and provide those reporting and dashboards that were required as part of this initiative. So so for the project, the first thing that we did was how we're going to approach the setup of Fieldwire. So what we came out is that for each discipline for that specific project, we're going to set up a Fieldwire project per discipline. So we split those up. As you can see here in the screenshot, we have, for the same project, we have a Fieldwire project for construction, environmental, safety, and quality. This gives us some advantages, like for example, manage and segregate the permissions for each project. And also in the forms, when you have that user field where you pick a user, only shows the users that were part of that project, Fieldwire project, instead of having all the users that have access to Fieldwire. So that gives us a little bit of flexibility to in the future scale that to more forms and to bring more people in and have that segregation of permissions across multiple Fieldwire projects.
Ricardo, how long did it take for you to go through that initial project setup approach? Did you test out a couple of different ways of setting it up?
Yeah, we try different ways. We try first combining all of them into one project, and then we decided that if we want to have a little more segregation on permissions, we needed to take it apart into different disciplines. Once we did that, we did some testing with the users, and they liked the approach, and we went that way. And also for the API that I'm going to explain a little bit later, we can just focus in that specific discipline to pull those forms that were ready, and that way we have that data available for that specific discipline. Yeah, thanks. That's a great question, Haley. Thank you. So the next step, once we have the project set up and we have all the different disciplines set up, we meet with every single discipline owner for the different projects and move all those forms that they used to have either in Word format and PDFs, or even sometimes pen and paper, collecting this data, and go through meet with all the projects to standardize those forms. This is the step of the process that takes the longest, because you have to meet with a lot of people, you have to coordinate, you have to agree on a final template. So once we had those templates, we came out with this list of forms. And these are some of the forms that we have deployed. And just to mention some key ones, like a daily construction log, that's the one that collects, well, it's a daily log. So we have a lot of forms collected for the different projects. We have the incident report, in quality, we have the quality, field daily report, the surveillance discovery report. And right now we're working with the commissioning group to develop those forms. By the way, we have a meeting with them tomorrow that they will release the first punch list form to one of the projects. And as you can see here on the right side, I put a screenshot of some of the forms. Some of those sections, like the construction activities, for example, the work stoppage material, all those sections are sections that we're pulling the information to create the dashboard that I'm going to show in the next slides. But just to have a visual here on how we are pulling the data. So so now when we have the project set up, we have the form set up. Now the next step was to integrate that, to pull that data, to build those APIs. And that's what we do with all the systems that we implement here, right? So in order to provide those rich dashboard reporting, we need to have control over the data and centralize. So we did the same for Fieldwire that we do with our EDMS system, like Aconex, with some SharePoint lists, with scheduled data. And even because we're an owner's engineer, we receive a lot of information from EPC contractors, or the contractors, that we have to aggregate into our databases, so to produce reports. So once we have all that data in our database, now we can aggregate that data between multiple sources and create these rich reports and dashboards. So that was the approach. So here, the next step, this is how we approach the integration. So the first phase was to find that application to collect the data. That was, in this case, Fieldwire. Then the next step was on the phase 2 was to centralize. So here's where we create the integrations and consume the APIs. So for Fieldwire, we have two types of integrations. The first one is just a straight integration where we're pulling the data from each form. Our IT group, that, by the way, is a great IT team that we have here at Sempra. They did an amazing job. They build in a way that is dynamic. So as soon as you create another project or another form, that data is coming into our databases to that API. So that's the first integration, right? All the forms data is extracted from the form or to the API, pull it and centralize it. And the other integration that we have is every time that we go through the whole process of a form, when a form gets approved, that's the last status, we make a call to generate a PDF for that form, and that form is stored into the project SharePoint site. And I will explain little bit later how we are consuming those forms in SharePoint. And once we have all those, like the data in our databases, now the phase 3 is as easy as just connecting our reporting tools or extending the capabilities of the data to build on our applications. That's let's say that's the easiest part once we have all the data in the database, just to consume and visualize that data.
Ricardo, for that phase 3 data visualization, who is that shared with internally? Is that upper management, project managers? Who's mostly consuming that?
I think it goes for the whole range, right? It goes, there's a lot of information that's consumed directly by the disciplines, discipline and discipline leads. And that information, once it's approved and visualized in there, also is aggregated to produce executive dashboards for progress, for quality, for safety. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, that's a great question, Haley. Here now we're going to show some of the dashboards that we built. Like I mentioned in the form before, I mentioned like there's one section they call activities. In this case, this is showing some of the activities. But once we pull all that data, because we have data that we can aggregate, like for example, we have an area drop down, we can aggregate all that data, apply all those filters. You can select in a specific area in that map, in that plot plan, and filter the data. And also, if you can see here in this section, not sure if you can see my mouse in the forms column, that's a link. That's a link. If you click on that, it will open that PDF file that I will show you in the next integration. So you can go all the way from aggregated data to filter the data, have a specific time frame if you need to see specific month, year, or even day, and then go and reference that PDF format, that form, to see the whole data set in one place. That's for the construction. Here's another example, quality. This is one of the surveillance discovery report. The same way, we're aggregating all this data. One of the use cases here on quality is that they collect so much information that they used to go to all the forms that they were in PDF and find all this information that they needed to aggregate, extract the data from for every single form, and then make a report or aggregate or come up with a number, a KPI. With the way we have this integration, we're pulling the data every 15 minutes from Fieldwire, and every form that is approved, all that data is aggregated. So you have close to real time. Every 15 minutes, you have the data available, the latest data in the dashboard. And yeah, the data, like in quality, right? Quality, they have a lot of data points. We built a lot of dashboard for them, as you can see here on the left side, from field observation, status of inspection, the surveillance discovery. So we have forms for all that data.
Ricardo, can you talk about why for these dashboards that real-time update is really important, and just for the types of projects that you work on?
Yeah, sure, Hailey. Yeah, so for the like, just to give an example, quality is a big group, and they go to different areas and different sections of the plant. By the way, Sempra LNG, what we do here, we build LNG plants, liquefied natural gas plants. So we receive the gas in a gas format, and then it's cooled down and liquefied so it can be transported to other countries easily. So all those plants are massive, and there's people all over the plant that sometimes it takes time for them to go back to the office. They just go probably to their houses after that, and all that data is automatically synchronized because it's collected through a tablet on the field. And as soon as they are sending the information or collecting the information, it's getting approved, someone on the office, and that are synchronized and aggregated to the dashboards. And for whoever wants to make a decision or see an insights about trends, they can come here and see close to real-time data. That's why it's really, really key that that approval process, because we're only aggregating data once it goes to the approval process, and that's part we have in our process. Once the data is collected in the draft, starting the draft status, then submitted, then go to an approver, and the approver review and change the status to approve, and that data is at that point pulled into the dashboard. Thank you, Haley. The next one, here's another example about environmental data. As you can see, also we're pulling photos from Fieldwire, and if you click on that photo, it will open the big picture, so you can download it or share it. But also you have all this aggregated data. Same with the map. You can filter with the map. You can use the day range, and yeah, it's been really useful for the leads to see the trendings of those projects. So that's on the what I just presented is all the information that we're pulling from inside the form, right? But also we developed some dashboards to more like an administration dashboards that can show the lead of that discipline, how their team is doing, how many forms do we have, in which status they're in. Like in this case, you see that we have like a quick snapshot about the different statuses that the forms are in, which are the templates that the form templates that are being used the most, and at the bottom you can go to the details and also open those forms. This is the summary view. As you can see, we have an overdue for approval report and the field user that I'm going to show next. That also tell you by user how many forms that user have collected, which are the statuses, and yeah, same. You can filter by field user, by the form template, by a specific range, and you just get all those insight about specific users. So that's with forms and the integration of pulling the data from the form. The next integration that I want to mention, number 2, is that to make a call to the API to generate that PDF, and that PDF is uploaded to a SharePoint site, to a project SharePoint site. So here we have 2 advantages by doing this. One is that once the number one is that if you're looking for a specific keyword inside the form, you can search it here on the number 1, where I put the number 1, the search bar on top, and it will filter all those forms to just those ones that contain that keyword. If you want to look information by project, by contractor, or by a specific keyword, or a combination of the 3, you can do it, and it will show those forms. And that has been really useful in case that there's something that needs to provide to legal or needs to be provided to the engineering group. You just filter that and provide those specific files to them. And the second one is that because we are part of the engineering construction group, once we complete the construction of the project, all that will be handed over to the operations group. So everything is already in the SharePoint site that is handed over to that operations group. So they don't have to go back to the system to find that information. We just transfer all that information to them. So those are the integrations, the 2 integrations that we have here at Sempra. It has been really helpful to bring all this information up. And as soon as we put the first dashboard out, we start getting more requests to build more and more. That leads to create more forms, to more users, to more integrations. So I think those are the 2 integrations that we have in the use cases.
Great. Thanks, Ricardo. Yeah, it's been exciting to see that grow over the last few years as well. So I'm glad to hear that it's been really useful.
Thank you, Haley. And we're excited about what you will be presenting. I know we started this 5 years ago or 6 years ago, But now I know that you're coming with a connector that we're excited to use for our dashboardings.
Great. Yeah, I will share that next. And I think we have another poll question. So if you could just let us know what team you work on. Great. So with that, I will briefly just get into the Power BI connector that we recently released. So you saw some of Ricardo's dashboards that he created using Power BI, and this is a great way to get started with it. This is an out-of-the-box connector that once you have API access, you will be able to build yourself. So just a quick overview, this will be available if you have Business and Business Plus and also API access. And the reason we built this is we wanted to make it more simple for you to be able to see information across multiple projects. So we have 4 dashboards that are part of this connector that, again, are completely out of the box. All you need to do is set it up to start using it. So I will quickly show that over here on my Fieldwire screen under integrations. You'll see we have this Power BI tile added here. And from here, you can download the connector, download the template, and also there's a link to our help center here. That's a great step-by-step article of how to set this up yourself. And as far as the dashboard itself, so this is an example I have. You can see 3 different projects in my dashboard right now. And we have 3 different task dashboards, so by project, by people, and by checklist items. And then we also have 1 forms dashboard. So this is meant as a starting out point. You can use it completely out of the box as is, or you can also continue to build on top of this. If there's more specific information you'd like to add in, you can continue building on top of that. So just quickly to run through these. So we have by project, you can see my task by status, category. If I click on any of these, it will filter it down. And then there's also a link to the project here too. So if I wanted to see this project directly, I can select the link and it'll take me to that exact task. So it's really great if you want, again, an overview of multiple projects at once. You can get that on this dashboard. I can also look by people, so I can see who is doing the most tasks each month. You can drill down into this more specifically. And checklist items, so these are the checklists within the task. This is great if you're doing any sort of QA, QC, or even punch list. You can see what's been completed and what has not been completed yet in those checklists within the task. And then finally, forms. This will give you an overview of the forms on your project, so the type of form and what status they're in. This is also great if you need people to submit them or approve them and they're still sitting in draft. You can say, who's this person that's got that form still in draft? I can reach out to them and make sure they submit it. So great way to get an overall big picture view of your projects. And again, this is completely out of the box. So as soon as you have API access, you can start using this connector and connecting your projects and testing it out. So I highly recommend taking a look at that. And with that, I think we have one more poll question. Yeah, so if you could just let us know if you think the Power BI connector might be beneficial for your company or your projects that you're working on.
Awesome. Thanks, Haley. Thanks, Ricardo, for going over your use case, and also Haley for just showing us how the Power BI connector works. Now let's go ahead and dive into a Q&A. I do have another last poll question for you guys. So just take a minute to fill in this. Just wanted to see if your company has resources to build API integrations and get an idea of just the integration side of things. Awesome. Thank you so much. And feel free to add any questions you might have as we go through this Q&A session here. The first question we have is, are these dashboards, I think Ricardo, they're talking about your dashboards. Are these dashboards generated from Fieldwire?
No, we're using Power BI. Power BI is a product from Microsoft Office 365. So the data is we're pulling through code through pulling the data through an API, Fieldwire API, and centralizing that into our databases, and then Power BI is connecting to that data, to those databases to create these dashboards.
Awesome. Thanks, Ricardo. Another question for you, Ricardo. So the Fieldwire basically exports API to, can you basically talk a little bit more about the SharePoint integration? We have a couple of questions around that. Did you build the integration to export the PDF into SharePoint? How does that work?
Yes, yeah, like I mentioned, we built this like 5 years ago. I think right now there's some kind of integrations with OneDrive in SharePoint. But we needed to have those dashboards, those PDF stored into a project SharePoint side. Yeah, so part of the API, you can make a call to generate that PDF that will return the PDF, and then we're with code with the API, we're getting that PDF and storing it into a SharePoint. Yeah, so it's not an out of the box. We build that integration.
Awesome. And just to add to that, today Fieldwire actually does a one-way integration with SharePoint, out of the box integration. So if you guys have forms that are filled, you can sync it to get it onto your SharePoint. The next question I have here is, what type of operations, read, write, update are supported via the API? I know it's not a direct question to either of you. I'm basically adding the link to all our API documentation, the Fieldwire's API documentation in the chat. So feel free to explore that link there. It has most of the ways of what we can do with Fieldwire, what endpoints do you have, and things like that. And feel free to email either Haley or me if you have any more questions on that. Going back, are there any rate limits or usage restrictions on the API? Haley, maybe you can explain a little bit about the API pricing.
Sure. So the API pricing is going to be based on what your current pricing is. So it'll be based on your account, depending on if you have a per user type setup or a project unlimited or company unlimited. That would be something that you'll need to reach out to your account manager or AE about getting pricing on. But it is an additional cost on top of what you currently have if you don't already have API.
Awesome. Thank you for that. The next question is, could the Power BI integration be used to track time on each job? We are needing a way to track the time from each employee's individual time card and attach it to each job they worked rather than having to move this info over manually. So can they extract time out of like a form or a task?
So you can extract time out of a task with that out of the box Power BI connector. There's the manpower section within a task. If that's filled out, you can extract that using the connector. If you were to use a form, you would need to go a little bit further and build something closer to what Ricardo's built and pull out information from the form. Our forms connector is really just going to give you an overview of the status and who's filling out those forms and for what projects. So for that, you need to have someone who's able to develop those dashboards a little bit more. But I think there's a couple ways you could do that. So something I would suggest reaching out to us about, or we can follow up with you on more information.
Awesome, thank you so much. The next question is again for Haley. The dashboards that you have shown initially are out of the box dashboards. Can we edit those dashboards to customize for our company?
Yes, you can. So those are really meant to be a starting out point for you. And from there, if you have someone, again, who has the capability or has used Power BI before, you can go in and continue to make edits and customize those to be more specific to your workflow and the information you'd like to collect.
Awesome. Does the system support webhooks for real-time data updates? Can we use it with our workflows?
Sorry, Pranathi, I missed the first part of that.
So does the system support webhooks for real-time data? I can give an answer. We do have webhooks for the real-time updates, if I'm not wrong, but we have to double check on that. The documentation I've put in the chat should answer that question for you. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any other questions on that. Awesome. What are the few integration? Do we have any restrictions or limitations on Fieldwire's API? Like in terms of data or usage?
Oh, no,
Go
we
ahead.
didn't see any limitations. I think we got all the information that we need, and also with the frequency, we didn't have any problems pulling the data.
Awesome. Thanks for answering that, Ricardo. Is Power BI an option with extra cost, or is it applied by default? I'm unable to see it under my integrations tab.
So you do have to have API access in order to see Power BI. So that's the additional cost. But once you have API access, we give you the Power BI connector as part of that.
Awesome, thank you. And also Power BI, you need to have a license to Power BI if you want to share it among users within your own company. If you are already on the Microsoft suite, it should be included in yours, but also you have to double check on that end. Awesome. I think that's majorly all our, oh, actually we have one more. This is for you, Ricardo. Are you somehow mapping the data incoming from several sources and then feeding in to create the dashboards in Power BI, or the data is kept separated?
If I understand that question correctly, talking about the different systems that we're integrating, yeah, we're keeping that data separate in different tables for each system, but then we find those keys to aggregate that data or connect those data points and then report that. For if the question is about Fieldwire, we have the integration, like I mentioned, it's a dynamic integration that as soon as we create a new project, we just specify that project needs to be pulled apart of the API and start pulling all that data, all those forms dynamically, right? We don't have to specify the format of the design. We just pull all the information and store that into the database. But then when we need to create the dashboard, then yeah, we need to make connections. We need to say, okay, this is a table that inside the form that we need to report on that, and we map that table to another table, then we connect to that the dashboard, or create those views, or create those stored procedures to pull that table specifically for that dashboard. That way we approach it so it's dynamic. We always have the information available in our databases. Not sure if that answers the question.
Thank you so much for answering that, Ricardo. And we're almost at time. So thanks everyone for attending today. I will go ahead and send a recording of this call in the follow-up emails. Feel free to go back to it if you have any questions further, or feel free to reach out to either me or Haley if you have any more questions on this. And yeah, like I hope the session was useful, and we would really appreciate if you could just stay on for a couple of more minutes to answer our survey. And have a great day. Take care. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy.